Will you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm 71. I've been living in Camp Washington for, I think it's for 12 years or 13 years, something like that. And I meet everybody, say hi to them. God bless you. Have a blessed day. And if I can help them, I can. I do. And if I can't, I won't. Well, if I can't, I can't. I won't. And otherwise than that, I just be on my little way enjoying life and enjoying what God gave me. And I read my Bible every morning and go from there and listen to His words and make sure I have His words in my heart and do what He asked me to do. I'll be trying to think of my Bible verse in the morning, and I go and I try to do what His prayer want me to do. And then I just come back home, walk my doggy, eat, and relax and enjoy myself.
I had a kind of worldly father and a mother who was moved to Chicago and missed her mother and was very sweet and caring. I was the only child. I was born right away, right after they got married. And she was overly protective. So the reason I want to tell you this, because I think this is part of who I became, was I was a little girl who liked sitting in my room. We lived in a little apartment. It's hard to get a place to live during the war. And I had dolls, and I had her handkerchief box from her drawer. And I used to wrap all the handkerchiefs around my dolls. And in my mind, there was always a story. So I didn't look like I was talking. I looked like I was sitting on the floor going like this. But there was a huge world of stories going on in all these places with little people all around. And I'd move them around. And there was not a problem with that, except at the end of the time that was my playtime, she or somebody would swoop in and clean it up. I couldn't leave things out. So if you look around my house now, I have later thought, maybe that's where that started. Right away, everything was cleaned up, and it wasn't the kind of mom like, okay, now we're going to fold your clothes, you help me, and we'll take your clothes out at night and put them at the foot of your bed, and then you'll be ready for school in the morning. It was sort of, I was chaos and I got cleaned up.
Early in my marriage, when I started having my kids, I made a decision to stay home and take care of my kids. And that's when the women liberation started. And I remember being judged because I was breastfeeding, I was staying home, and I was happy. And I remember everybody saying, you had to be free, and I said, but I feel free.
You sacrificing all the time for others, for your children, for your husband, for the things that you do, but you should retreat some time and say, every minute that I give to others, I should give a minute to me. Because that minute, it will create in you a wholeness in your soul. It will complete you. And you don't know when is your time to go. But if you only give and then you didn't receive your wholeness, then how you find yourself. And if you can go to the afterlife with the inner peace and say, here I am, with a smile in your soul, and say, I'm complete. The little bit that was given to me, I'm complete.
Lador vador. I did.
Okay.
It's a Jewish phrase, Lador vador, from generation to generation, and we embrace that. You know,
We've used that expression for a number of years
Mhm.
now, because it's truth from generation to generation, and her daughters are carrying on.
the wisdom and the traditions you
And
pass
the-
along,
They one up it. The girls one up it.
as it
They-
should be, right?
Every generation improves on the
Improves.
previous.
They take the best parts and improves, and it's great.
Mhm.
Lador vador.
How do you feel like people perceive you differently now that you're older? Do you feel like you get more respect, less respect? How do you feel like the world embraces you?
See, the funny thing with aging is that sometimes I was not aware that I was aging. And I remember the first time somebody called me, in my culture, a stranger can call you madrecita, like little mother, it's a term of endearment. And I remember I was shocked. I said, because only they do that, they say that to older people. I said, oh my gosh, he called me a madre. I was in Mexico visiting, and I said, oh my gosh, I'm old. It was a shock for me. But then I overcome, and that feeling, and I said, wait a minute, I'm still fine. Nowadays you live longer, and my goal right now is to be in good health, because I have a lot to live for. I still want to have a garden and plant some fruit trees in my new house, and I want to see my grandchildren grow up, and I want to be near my husband, keep being his best friend, and we always had things to do. We always had projects together. So no, I think I'm fine. So I start thinking about how to preserve my muscles, my mind, and to be more peaceful. That means people live their lives. That includes your kids, because the moment you want to fix their lives or something, you get in trouble. So, hey, if they need me, I'm here.
See, that's what's slipping away from me is memory. Yep,
How do you feel about that?
I can't do anything about it. I keep seeing these ads for, take medicine, take a teaspoon of this every day, and your memory will magically come back. You can get really tempted to find an instant, but I'd be so disappointed. I'd be angry.
Oh, you suddenly become a child.
Yeah.
You don't have anything to contribute any longer. So all the experience that you've had is negated by your age. So I think we tend to think that old people everybody has dementia, everybody has Alzheimer's, everybody is, la la out there in la la land, and so there are things you could do to contribute, and one of them is this: sharing your thoughts and your processes, and but most of all your experience.
I had a beautiful birth, and there was a point where I was like at this point where I can't do it. You get to that point.
Yeah.
And I could literally feel the rope of all of the women who came before me, and I could pull that rope. And it was like I was pushing from somewhere that wasn't me.
Yeah.
And that's not my experience only. Like I've shared that.
No,
Many people have had that.
Yeah.
Like there is some kind of power wanting to push this new being into here,
Yeah,
right?
In a sense, it's the first will act of that infant, right?
Yes.
It's that's their higher self, their ego you know, I'm coming. And what a shock, right? What a shock. So, I mean, those are, anyone who's had a child, and I think, you know, to the degree that your partner, I mean, it depends on how you have the child, but anyway, those who are intimately connected with that birth, it's like, whoa, what is this? I mean, it's terribly scary. It's like, what are we responsible for now? How do we do this? What's going, you know? But it's also, wow, I've been entrusted with this. Yeah, and that's huge.
Right.
That's huge. I do feel like giving birth opens you to a reality of other forces, other beings guiding us. It does, yeah. Because, I mean, these children who have come into this world now, they have a lot to deal with.
But I feel like they also are very intelligent.
I feel like they are intelligent on many levels. It's a heart intelligence, you know, it's a capacity. They can have intellectual capacity, but their cognition is a different kind of cognition. It's not just the head. Yeah. So it's a very special time. We live in a very, very special time.
How do you feel like being a woman has affected the way you move through the world throughout your life?
I feel in my life, it's been a privilege.
Yeah, I think so.
I feel fortunate that I'm a woman. There was nothing that I wanted to do that I couldn't do, because I was in a different era. Maybe my scope was limited in those days. You only had two options, teaching or nursing. That's probably it growing up, going to college. However, it didn't crimp my style.
Because that kind of, we're nurturers.
Mm-hmm.
I was a teacher as well. My daughter's a teacher as well, and
Family members married into the family, they're educators.
teachers, and you know, the more traditional feminine thing. But no, I've always enjoyed being a woman. I like everything that goes with it.
So I never thought of myself as, because I'm a girl, I can't do this or that. You can try, that's the other thing. And when someone says, no, you can't do that, you'll fall over. That's a thought that was never in my head, and I don't like that, so. I have learned through this illness with the weak legs and the bad balance, and that there are things that you can do and there's things you can't do. And if you're going to do it when you're not supposed to, you may fall down and hurt yourself. So, I mean, it was a learning process for like a year and a half old kid, you know, learning to walk.
Right now I'm gonna move to a new neighborhood, new house, and one of my concerns is how my neighbors are gonna react. Me being Mexican, my husband being Mexican, having my grandkids, you know, Mexican. So that's one of my concerns. Not much, but it's in the back of my mind right now.
What exactly happened to your family?
So during World War II, after the bombing of Pearl Harbor, all the Japanese Americans, most of them were Americans. There were some were put in camps. They had to leave their homes. They were only allowed to take what they could carry with them. They didn't know exactly where they were going. So they lost everything. And at that time, Japanese Americans, anybody who was born in Japan could never become an American citizen. It wasn't until 1954, it's around that time when Japanese Americans could become American citizens. So, that was, and then their children who were American citizens they were put in those camps, and so they lost a lot of their, they lost, their. To me, I think especially the young adults, a lot of the dreams got lost, and the elders who were like my grandfather, he was arrested after the bombing of Pearl Harbor because he owned a Japanese store, and he made trips to Japan often, and so he was considered a potential spy, and so he was put in a special camp, and he died in the camps. He never got to return to his home. My parents were a young couple. The bank, how when you're young, the bank mainly owns your home, and if you don't have a job, you can't make house payments, so you lose your home, and so they lost their home. They lost all the furniture. They lost their home. And when they came out, it was hard to find a place that would accept them. Hard to find a job. You started at the bottom and worked your way up, and even though my father had a college education, he had to start out in a factory, which is, and he eventually was able to move up. But that's what happened, and I think they kind of accepted.
My mom, she had three ladies. They were Jewish, and they come to our house and asked my mom if she would help them hide them. And my mom, she said, "Where can I hide you? They'll find you and they're going to kill us because we're helping Jews." So in the meantime, my dad said, "Well, feed them." And then they've been fed, and my mom, she said, "Well, you have to leave now." But they still they want to go. They don't want to leave the house. They want to stay there and hide them. Meantime, my dad said, since this is like, farm, he said, "I'll give you each a bucket, and there'll be seeds to feed the animals, birds." He said, "When you get out the house, go to your right side and pretend you put your hand in a bucket, pretend you throw seeds, you feeding, but walk, don't run. Because if you're gonna run, they'll shoot you right away." Well, they didn't listen to my dad. They get out the house, they ran. And here comes soldiers. They said to them, "Halt, halt," means stop, stop. They didn't stop, they killed them. Shot them right in the back. Meantime, the soldiers come to our house, got us all outside, lined us up in the front of the house, and pointed the rifles at us that they're going to kill us now because my mom and dad help Jews. So what are you going to do? We're standing there. We stood quite a while. I'm start crying. I said, "Mom, I'm getting hungry." My dad said, "Hush, quiet. Soon we won't be hungry." Well, whatever he said, and I'm standing there. I said, "I'm tired, stand." So anyway, across the street there used to be lived an old man, a neighbor. He was over 90 years old, and he was in World War I. And he come over, he said, "Why do you want to kill my neighbors? Why do you want to shoot them?" And they said to him, "It's none of your business. But old man, go back to your house." And he said, "No, I'm not going." And he spoke German real well. He was World War I. And he said, "No, I'm not leaving. I'm going to stand here." And he come and he stood behind my father. He said to them, "Okay, go ahead. Kill us all." And he was standing. So he couldn't do it. And then the old man said, "What did they do? I like to know. Still, they're my family. I love them like a son, like daughter. Then they said, well, they were helping Jews. And they said to him, can't you see those ladies? They're all Jews. So he talked to them. Then the soldier said, okay, tell them to go inside the house. So we all got inside the house. We stayed there. In the meantime, my grandmother was with us. She was a widow. So it already started getting dark. So my dad said, well, tomorrow morning, early in the morning, I'll get up, get the horses ready, and we're going to go by my parents' house. We lived, I think, maybe 4 or 5 miles from my grandparents. Meantime, my mom, my grandmother, had that instinct, and both of them said to my dad, no, Anthony, get the horses now. We live tonight. And my dad said, what's the matter, ladies? It's dark. My mom said, don't worry, we get lanterns, don't worry about it, we're leaving. They had that instinct. He didn't listen, then he goes, well, okay, I'll listen to you, ladies. So he did listen, got horses, we all in the buggy there, threw whatever could, some food, bread, threw in that van. Okay, we left, we went by my grandparents, we stayed overnight. And overnight, the house was blown. It was our house.
Do you have any advice for mothering? Like, what would be some good advice
Well,
for a mother?
Kids are really young. I'd say, number one, take care of yourself. That would be first. Okay, make sure you have space in your day. You are not just pouring out, whether it's pouring out milk or pouring out your energy or preparing food. And for the first 5 years, pretty much, you're pouring out a lot. So you have to have a source. And I think it's really important to get some kind of a time, some kind of a space that's really yours. For some people, that's a mental space, But for other people, it really is a physical space where they aren't feeling pressed or hearing the voice, or their baby's not smelling the milk and crying because mother's not near. And don't be too hard on yourself. Just don't be too hard. It's one thing to strive kind of for excellence, but not for perfection. And I think it's really hard to measure what's an excellent child rearing kind of thing. I think with young kids, it's really good to keep a rhythm, and that's hard on families these days. It's really hard to have, a rhythm of getting up, and that's security for children, a rhythm of meals, not that you can't, deviate from that rhythm, but rhythm is a basic security for young kids. And when they grow up with that security, it really helps them become centered. And that's so hard in our world today because there's so much chaos and so much, I think, pressure on everybody. Number one, though, take care of yourself.
How have you navigated through your joy and through your sorrow?
I think it helps if I can just stay in today, and it keeps the sorrow manageable. But it also allows me to, when I have the joy, to actually, if I can stay in that moment and just really enjoy it, as opposed to be thinking about what I got to do the next day or what I have to do when I get home, but to just really enjoy that joy, and because it's going to be gone, that moment, that, if I can, just be present, and I think about, I wish sometimes when my children were little and, I'm doing things that need to be done, that I had stopped more often and just enjoy, that moment.
What has brought you joy and sorrow in your life?
Joy is easy.
I particularly have had very little sorrow.
Yeah.
I have had a blessed life from the minute I was born, and I'm thankful every single day of my life. I thank whoever is up there or anywhere for the life that I have enjoyed. And sorrow, I've rolled with it.
Yeah.
I just roll. If something happened,
We've lost loved ones. That's the hardest.
and things come up, and that's the way it is. Life is constantly changing, but if you don't adapt, and you make the best of everything.
But joy, the most joy comes from the relationships that we have. I think Mom and I are pretty similar that way. We have a few friends. And
A few friends.
Being on water, sailing, boating, swimming. My mother was an Olympic swimmer in the 20s. And yeah, I think I just loved physical stuff, yeah. And I really didn't have a lot of toys and stuffed teddy bears, and they weren't real.
Any wisdom you have to share with a woman my age, I'm 44, or any other age, and even an artist, anything that you can share?
Okay, I do, because I thought about that when we talked a little before, and I do. And the wisdom came, I'm not religious, but when my husband died, or he was really sick, there's a rabbi that I knew because I had done artwork for the Hillel House, which is a Jewish student house. And his name was Abby Ingber. And I said, Abby, what's the meaning of all this? Where do I go with this? How do I think about it? And he said to me at the time, we were at a table, and he said, think of yourself as a tiny, tiny dot in a huge universe. And so when I placed myself, not so much as this sad now widow with now what's going to happen, if I changed and thought of myself as just such a tiny part of something so much bigger, everything that I identify with now came from that talk. So my wisdom is, you're worried, oh, my paintings aren't selling, somebody's worried, and I'll have all these paintings and blah, blah, blah. It's possible that 100 years from now or 200 years from now, that storage of paintings is going to speak about a time in a way that somebody finds them and makes them, and you have absolutely no idea when this is going to happen. It's the luck of the draw and what's out there in the universe now anyway. I think it's take the long shot. Don't think just about tomorrow or the next day. And just enjoy what you got. Feel lucky.
Thank you. What advice do you have for someone like my age?
To tell you, love one another, be kind to one another. That the best thing is love. You have that, you'll be fine. So I don't know what else could I say. Enjoy your life and always be nice to one another. Just loving each other.
I would say don't clinch on things that don't have a purpose. Once see it, your life is like a shooting star. you're constantly moving. If you clinch on something, you can move forward. If something don't work out, let it go. Don't create more baggage. Let it go and take it and give it transcendently to the energies of growing. Let it go. Move with the shooting star energy to the forward. Every stage in your life, you will grow. Don't clinch on the negative. Because if you clinch in the negative, your mind, your health, and your soul will never rest. Don't surround yourself with sorrows. Let the sorrows go. Then you be in a journey. And your journey will tell you more and more when your time comes. By aging, by experiencing. And be aware that when you let go, everything left it in peace. The best you can, so you don't hurt more people in the journey that creates in you blockage, so you can move forward.
If we looked at each other as brothers and sisters as opposed to enemies, and not, it doesn't mean everybody is wonderful and to take chances, but it means everybody's fighting the same battle.
Empathy.
Yeah, everybody's trying to be their best selves, and sometimes they make the wrong choices, but that's part of the beauty of being a human being, is you have a choice.
Right.
That's your question. I
I
can't.
don't know. That's hard.
I can't even think.
I can't even think either.
Well, I think, personally, I have always thought that she has been the best mother anybody could ever be. And I will say that about a couple of my daughters-in-law as well. We've been very fortunate. I mean, she could write the book on how to be a good mom. And dad, the way they've dealt with their children all the way along. There might be a problem. They know how to handle it and discuss it and work it out.
Yeah, work it out. Stick with it. Work it out.
So can you share that advice on anything on mothering then? That something that you feel...
She's the best.
Oh, I always this is just a parenting thing. I always said limits equal love, and I just tried to set appropriate limits to give my kids parameters, because I think if you just let them do whatever they want, it's not a healthy thing. They need to know what's expected. But then again, you got some wiggle room in there. Limits equal love. Was something I always thought about. Just lots of love. Lots of, what is it? Fun.
And I'll say
A lot of
listening
fun. Listening.
is really important.
This one is the best listener. She's the best listener. Like ask what's her name in the post office, your friend. Everybody calls her Barbara, within 5 seconds, and she knows their entire story. That's right. That's not a parenting thing, but that's a life advice.
It's good life.
A little bit jaded.
Get to know people.
What I'm seeing is literally a projection of myself.
Sure.
And it's been humbling. Just throughout all of my relationships, I'm just kind of like, well, if you look at it from that perspective, it changes a lot of things.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I would just like to know more. That's why I'm still alive. I would like to know more about how that works, and one of the things that's been kind of interesting for me of recent times is, why do I dislike some people? Why do I dislike that person? Well, she's just doing what you do, Joan, or she's doing the same thing, or she's guarding herself like you guard yourself. And I may never have a relationship with a person, but the understanding of that for myself is really wonderful.
Do you have anything else you'd like to share with us?
Well, I think our woman is beautiful. You know what I mean? Though they don't, some of our women don't consider themselves as beautiful, lovely, worthworthy, or strong enough, or they don't have desire to move on, to do nothing on their own, or to move in this world by themselves or do anything without a man. My thing is, women can do anything without a man, because we are stronger than the men, and we have our knowledge if we just use it. And a lot of women don't use it, and don't let the men use you and abuse you. And stay strong.
Thank you.
Amen.
Okay, the Council of the 13 Grandmothers. And there was a woman in California. She is considered one of the grandmothers now. And she had a dream of a basket. She had had this dream many, many times. And there were fruits, different fruits that were placed in the basket. And they obviously were fruits and vegetables of different origins. And it came to her that she was, how do we gather the wisdom of our elders? And she started connecting with elders, grandmothers in different cultures. And she actually called together, I don't remember what, it's at least 12 or 15 years ago they did this, to bring these grandmothers together to speak of the wisdoms of what they had received and why are they grandmothers in their culture. I mean, it was recognized they were grandmothers and wise elders. And they came from all over the world. It was quite a feat, but she had this dream and she knew she had to do this, and she figured out how to fund it, how to find the people. One woman from Brazil, grandmother Flor de Mayo out of New Mexico, and she's Mayan, and just many. So there was Africa, there was South America, there was Japan, there were all these women, and there were 13 of them, and they came together, and they obviously different languages, and they met and shared their dreams, and they all had a very similar dream and knew they would come together. They knew that there would be a gathering, because in this age, this wisdom is so needed, and that they would share what they knew. They shared how they healed, how they ritualized, how they buried their dead, how they birthed, all of the wisdom of the seeds, the wisdom of the water, their ceremonies around us. They shared those, and then they began to, they said, well, we need to take this around. And the woman, Jyoti, who gathered them together initially, she started like, well, let's get all the grandmothers and we'll go to this part of the world. And we'll go to the place where the African grandmother or the salmon grandmother up in the northwest of the United States. And we'll learn from their people, and we will talk also with their youth. Okay, so they would always have this council, and they would bring the young people, and the young people could ask any questions, and they would ask the young people, here's what's happening in the world. What do you think we should do? What do you understand is needed? So there'd be this, not a hierarchy, right? A circle acknowledging elders, and a circle acknowledging youth and the new knowledge that it brings with it. What are they carrying from the world beyond?
My daughter calls me Phoenix bird. You know the Phoenix bird? She said, Mom, you fly around, helping, and you always come back. She said, you always come back. She said, you always do it for others, and you always come back, Mom. Oh, she said, she loved me so much. She said, "What I am." She said, "People loves you." She said, "I see now why they love you, because you're a loving person." And I said, "Well, thank you, thank you."
It's true.
All the friends I have, they always say, especially this Abigail father, he's in the 50s. And since he known me like 10 years, 12 years, he said to me, I am a better man knowing you. He said, I love you so much. You're a family to me. He said, you're more family than my family to me. I said, well, thank you for saying that. He said, it's true. He said, I'm not going to lie. And Abigail, same thing. She said, I love you, Nadia. Oh, I said, thank you. Family. Oh, you are our family. That's all we always think about you. You are our family. I said, well, thank you for saying that.
I feel the same way.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, and I have Nikita, my best friend.
Yes.
She's my best friend now. Because all our friends, they all died in Dayton. No one is there alive. And in Cincinnati too. Even much younger, they died. And we were the oldest, George and I. He was 87 and I'm gonna be 86. But all other ones, it's amazing how all of them, we had no one anymore. So, and George, when he retired, he lived like retirement 26 years. So that was a long time for him to be. And so, miss him, of course. But that's life, I always say. And while you're here, just enjoy your life and be nice, be kind, be a loving person, and it always comes back to you. And I don't know, I just love to be a woman.
I do too.
And having Nikita, my friend, loving you guys. I love you guys.
I love you too. Thank you. Make me cry, Nadia.